So we're going to hand it back to Sonia. I think she has some comments before we go back to questions.
Actually, I don't have any comments, but I'd like to reiterate something that Jason said, and that is, he said students first. And as hard as it is for all of us, employees at BC, to really start thinking about creative ways of doing our jobs at a distance, most of our students are going through difficulties in this transition as well. And I too am very happy that everything I hear from the counseling department, what I hear from our faculty, that we're all placing our students first as we're making this transition and taking care of them. So that's all I have, Todd, and we'll go ahead and take questions.
Okay, so I know some of the questions have already been asked in the chat window, but if you have additional questions, please go ahead and put them in there. And then for our presenters, if you see a question that you can answer, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in and answer the question. Just looking for some questions. I know there was a question. Go ahead.
And as you're looking for questions, Todd, I just thought I would keep giving out information. In case you're curious, we have pretty much successfully transitioned most of our lecture classes to a virtual, to teaching at a distance. And I'm using the phrase teaching at a distance because typically when we say the word online, there is an understanding to what an online environment means. It means you do it in Canvas, you test in Canvas, and it's not a real-time interaction necessarily unless the faculty member asks you to do something in real time. And Jason had mentioned that many faculty are going to be using Zoom to do their lecture, so you will have the same experience as if you are in the classroom, except you're going to be at your home or your grandparents' home or your children's home, and your instructor is going to be talking to you. And we're asking for all instructors who are using that method that we stick to the class schedule because we want to make sure students are enrolled in several different classes. So I think we have at this point, you know, the issues that we're still dealing with are nursing, clinical, our public safety that has rules and regulations, but if not, most of our courses have moved online at this point.
Sonia, a question that came up that you can probably answer was, with Kern County now being in a state of emergency, what is the likelihood of us doing a full closure? And then also, if we do a full campus closure, does that mean that all employees will not be allowed to work on campus?
Well, the way we're approaching it is if there's not a requirement from an external agency to put a hard closure and not allow employees on campus, we will continue to work off campus because we're already starting to do that in a very aggressive way to keep our campus minimal in terms of staffing. If Kern County Public Health asks for a hard closure, then at that point we will be getting employees, and I'm speaking to you, we will be getting some information that will probably roll out from human resources, how we need to take care of it. You know, for example, when recently one of our sister campuses had an earthquake situation, that was a hard closure, but some employees still needed to help out. But we're not triggering that at all at this point. At this point, every employee is engaged in figuring out if they can be doing their work at a distance, and we're moving to minimize the number of individuals on our campus. I do know that our chancellor is starting conversations with our Board of Trustees as well, and I'm sure that if the situation goes to that extent, then our board members would be weighing in as well through our chancellor.
So Andrew, I think, Andrew Haney, you had posted a question. I think that answers the question about, is the campus going to be open to faculty so we can come into campus and do lab demos for our students through a web conference? That's probably still okay. We wouldn't want you to bring students in, but if you're just recording a demo or something, keep in mind the goal here is to minimize as much as possible interaction between people so that we can slow down the virus. There was another question by Beth Ann about if we go to a full closure, does that mean we won't have access to our BC office? Sonia, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I want to start with Andrew Haney's question. The way I would frame it is, my preference would be for you to systematically think about how you could do everything remotely and not have to come to campus. So that would be my first ask. So if you're planning to come on campus, treat it as an emergency, that you cannot get it done, or you can only get it done if you come to campus. So it needs to be at a high threshold that makes you come. So that would be my ask of you, faculty, to consider. If we have a hard closure, again, it would depend. We will have, with a hard closure, what that means. We will explain that. If it's a hard closure where no one can come to campus because of healthcare reasons or any kind of an emergency situation, then we will notify you of that. So just stay in tune for exactly what a hard closure means. For example, when we did a hard closure in one of our sister campuses, it meant most employees should not go to campus except those who were identified to help out with the situation. So that was the meaning of that, and we'll make sure we, at that point, explain what it means in this particular situation.
Sonia, here's another one. It's more instructional, but I think it's an instructor asking from the perspective of kind of their perspective with students. When will this all be expected to be final? If the class is still set to meet tonight and students choose not to go, how will that be handled? Will they not face any repercussions?
At this point, we should absolutely be working with our students and supporting our students. It is business unusual. For example, a lot of our employees are staying at home because their kids were not able to with the school closures. So you should anticipate many of your students choosing not to come to a face-to-face class if there is a face-to-face class meeting tonight. And so please, my ask is for you to be able to accommodate that student. They could be an older student. There's been an advisory out by the governor that older individuals should stay away from public spaces. So that could be the reason. It could be a younger individual who has an immune system that is compromised. There are various reasons why people choose what to do. So my ask of you, faculty, is to be very accommodating of your students, and also to continue to work with colleagues to think about taking your class into a virtual environment.
John Chica asked the question, is it anticipated that we will return to a normal class schedule after spring break like the rest of the school district? I think Leslie answered it good in the chat, but basically it's probably a question mark because we would like to plan for that and we need to be ready for that. But if this were to extend out longer, then things can change. It's very fluid right now. Was that what you would say, Sonia?
I would say as the president that we have to wait and see how things play out. But if you were to ask me personally, as Sonia, what I anticipate happening, I think that this is going to be a longer situation than something that's going to get resolved at spring break. So I'm anticipating and planning for the rest of the spring semester. And that's just me personally, but my official answer is we wait and see.
There was a question about, will high school seniors still get priority registration? And then a follow-on question with that, are we thinking of possible moving registration back?
I don't know if Zab or Michelle or others are on the chat or who could jump in. My understanding as of this morning is that we are proceeding with registrations as planned. I know Steve Watkins' operation are really struggling to figure out what would the work with the high schools look like, because that whole operation at the high schools are not set up in a way, we don't control it just as we do at Bakersfield College. We can just switch classes online. So they're really trying to come up with ways in which we can keep it on track. So I think that's the most recent information, that we're going to keep it on track with the registration. But stay tuned, that might change tomorrow.
So I'm looking at the questions, and I'm sure I may have missed one or two in there, but that's most of the questions that I see. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for today. We want to thank all of you for participating. Continue to stay engaged. As you can see, BC as a both faculty, management, and our support staff, we are actively engaged in trying to do everything we can to support our students and make it so that we can continue business as usual in an unusual environment and world. One more quick question, and then we'll sign off. Sonia, how are dual enrollment classes taught by high school teachers affected?
That has been difficult. For example, I was reading an email before I hopped on the virtual seminar, and the principal of Wasco High was informing Abel and Steve Watkin, and had me included, saying that Wasco is closing their campus and sending their students home. And I responded to him and I said, I have absolute confidence that we're going to get together and try to figure out how to solve it. We don't have the answer to the dual enrollment question. What we're doing right now is honoring the protocol established by the high school, and then we're going to figure out how do we make up for the time and so on. And I think that is going to be a priority 2 conversation that our Vice President of Instruction will start engaging with the deans. Right now, our priority 1 is to get our students off our physical campus into our virtual campus. Our priority 1 is to get our employees off the physical campus to be working remotely. Our priority number 1 is to do extensive social distancing to help slow down the epidemic curve. That's what we're focused on today.
Thank you, Sonia, and I think that's a good wrap up. Like you probably, for those of you that were watching the chat window, not everybody sees these, but we will have another one tomorrow at 4 p.m., so stay tuned for any updates. And then also in the chat, it was mentioned that everything you can do to help us message the various points that are being made, that helps us communicate out to whether it's students, peer faculty, or anyone else. So with that, we're going to wrap it up today. Thank you all for participating, and we hope to see you again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thank you.